I get real quick. I got one for you here. Right here.
It sure sounds like it. Okay.
I have a hello here from the state of New York. Actually, it just says hello from NY, so I don't know whether it's the state or the city, but it's from Jacob. And he says, a few times now I've heard Cornette talk about gimmicking different objects, tables, chairs, 2x4s, etc. Whenever this comes up, he never goes into any detail about what you do to them so that you can hit someone safely. Is this to preserve one of wrestling's secrets so he doesn't get in trouble when listeners try to do it? Now, actually, I would enjoy that if somebody tried to break a board over their own head in the backyard and went to the hospital. Because
do you remember when, real quick, when they were doing the Ken Patera, they were busting cinder blocks on him on Georgia TV?
Yes.
With Snuka and Gordy there, and then Gordy grabs the mic from Gordon Soley and says all the kids at home should try this on their buddies.
Yeah, try it on your friends at home. What Bam Bam said. But anyway, so he doesn't get in trouble when listeners try to do it or just because he didn't think it was relevant. If you don't mind, I'd like to hear some about how you gimmick stuff. I think it would be interesting, especially since Jim always says that nobody knows how to do it right anymore. Well, that is part of the thing is that, the magician, Penn and Teller may admit that it's an illusion, but they don't tell you how to do it. Even on the Fool Me show, they whisper to the guy so they don't publicly out the magicians that they caught their fucking sleight of hand or whatever. But there is, see, here's the thing. Everybody thinks, okay, well, it was gimmick. That means it's safe. And that means it's just, a walk in the park, a box of fluffy ducks, a duck-billed platypus, whatever the fuck, right? Mm-hmm. But what you are doing is just reducing your risk. You are doing it the smart way. You are working, not shooting. Working is still dangerous, but it's the smartest way to get across what you want to do, whereas shooting is just taking a blunt instrument and just hitting somebody overhead with it as hard as you fucking can. There's a difference. And there's a lot of it goes back to the carnivals. I mean, all the carnival games were set up, the fucking lead in the bottom of the one milk bottle you can't knock over, or the whatever the fuck. There were ways that they gimmicked things to prevent people from winning shit. Well, there's also then ways that you can gimmick shit to do it and impress people. Do you think there's tricks to every old strongman trick? There's a technique to tearing a phone book in half. But just because you know that technique doesn't mean you can tear a phone book in half unless you're a fucking strongman. So when Joe LeDuc did his bear hug challenge, where he would get in the middle of the ring and lock his hands together in a bear hug grip, and he would have 5 men from the audience on each side, not just 5 together, 5 men on each side with a leather strap tied to his biceps, and they would have 10 seconds to pull his grip apart, right? Well, they couldn't do it. One time he did it in Tupelo so they could tape it and show it on Memphis TV, and the leather strap broke before his grip did. The guys there was a bunch of rednecks from Tupelo pulling their ass off. But you couldn't just do it if you were fucking Casper Milquetoast from down the street, but because Joe LeDuc was fucking enormously strong anyway. The point is that with the way that it was set up with the leather straps on his biceps, physics, the way that they were pulling the grip, he could get the best grip to resist. If the straps had been on his wrists or, whatever the fuck, it's a thing. So you can resist that for 10 seconds if you're a Superman. Another thing he did, I did this with Bruiser Bedlam. Ken Patera had done this. The holding the car back with your legs, right? You put your back against a concrete wall and your legs on the front bumper of a vehicle, and somebody accelerates the vehicle until the tires are spinning and your legs are holding it, right? You've seen that. As a matter of fact, Les Thatcher did it with Joe LeDuc in Knoxville because Les was a race car driver and they didn't want some fucking idiot, because there's a trick to this. I'll tell this because nobody's going to do this. If you do, send me video because I want to see you fucking squash yourself. But you find not a gravel area or one of the rough type of asphalt finishes, but you find one of those slicker asphalt or concrete finishes where it's slick. And if it's a fucking rear wheel drive, front wheel drive, wherever the power is, you spray that fucking STP spray on the slick concrete. It'll make the tires spin. but you're still holding the fucking accelerating car back with your legs and your back against a fucking concrete wall. Do you want to do that, Brian, now that you know the trick?
No.
Exactly. So in some cases, it's not as extreme as those, but I don't like to tell all the tricks because then everybody knows enough already. Now, the guys, when I do these things, the guys are fucking fooled. So I don't want the fans to know everything. When I was in MLW last year and they asked me to produce, they had the, anything goes fight in the building with the Von Erichs and Lawler and the Contra unit. And one of the ring crew guys said, well, do you want me to go to Home Depot? There's an anything goes match and get to tables and, chairs or ladders or whatever. I said, no. I said, here's what I need. I need one metal folding chair, a 3-foot long pine board with no knot holes, a flathead screwdriver, a ball peen hammer, a roll of duct tape, a roll of athletic tape, 3/4, a pocket knife, a large cup of water, and a triple cheese from Wendy's. The last one is for me while I fix all this other stuff up.
Of course.
And we had a match where one guy got a board broken over his head and one guy got duct taped to the fucking ring post while the heels got heat on the partners, but the fucking extra ring crew guy came out with a pocket knife and cut him loose in a nick of time. And the fucking Jacob Fatu, the Samoan beast, got a beer thrown in his face and blinded. And one guy got hit with a chair one time. And everything registered and everything meant something. Nobody got hurt. I've been in places where they actually, I've told the story where Bruiser Bedlam wanted to really break the beer bottle over his head in the promo when he was going to have the match with Randy Savage. I've explained about the bottles then because that was part of that story. He was going to just break the fucking bottle over his head. And he did it about 4 or 5 times to himself and actually busted himself open. Jimmy, the bottle won't break. So finally I said, Bruiser, he said, it must be thinner in Canada. I do this in the bars all the time. I said, you're not drunk now. That may be one thing it has to do with it. But we baked the bottle. You just bake the bottle, get it good and hot, and then take the fucking very top of it with a rag or something and dip it in cold water, and the glass cracks but doesn't fall apart if you do it right. You really got to be careful. And then you set it in the fucking carrier thing and you baby it until it's time, and then when you hit somebody with it, it's going to shatter. But it's still real glass. When they started using this fucking movie glass, the sugar glass shit, I hated that. Because not only can it expose the business where the pieces fly and somebody picks it up and it crumbles, but also in a lot of cases, unless you're careful with it and know what you're doing, it's more dangerous than the glass because it'll grind into powder and get in your eyes and shit. It just powderizes. So anyway, whatever you did, you always wanted people to, if they pick up a piece of a board, it's a real board. If they pick up a piece of glass, it's a real glass. If they pick up knucks, if you let knucks go out into people, they better be real and you better been working with them. Because if you got gimmick knucks and they go out into people, you're fucked. But then I've told story of how a number of times, famously in the Heavenly Bodies and the Bruise Brothers match, Ron and Don Harris in Johnson City, I had a real slapjack and a gimmick slapjack. We used the gimmick one, and then I switched it and threw the real one out in the crowd so they'd go, oh, my God. But the Harris boys didn't know, and they thought I'd thrown the real or the fake one out there, so they went and got the fucking gimmick slapjack, but it was the real one. And they came in and started to use it. I said, no, we're all running from them. No. It's sleight of hand. It's fixing things. It's gimmicking with things. It's giving yourself an advantage. It's doing tricks that punching I can show the average person how to take their bare hand and punch a 10-penny nail through a fucking board. All the way through where you can shred paper on the other side. Makes you look like a fucking strong man. You got to have a pretty good punch to be able to do it. But a guy like a Bruiser Bedlam I've done it with, or Mark Henry I've done it with, or goddamn the Punisher in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, Barry Buchanan I've done it with. You can have them, you can fix it, and you can show them the technique where they can just take a 10-penny nail in their fist and punch it repeatedly through a board, just like you're punching a goddamn paper clip through a sheet of paper. They're all real things. They've just been modified. and it's technique. And so when I started in the Gabe Sapolsky went nuts one time at a Ring of Honor show in like 2006 because I was showing the guys how to not actually hit each other over the head with a board and try to break it from scratch and on purpose. And the guys were like, oh, we didn't know. They just somehow in that lost generation we had in wrestling, and they watched ECW shows, they just started hitting each other with implements over the head for real without a technique to it. That to me never made a lot of fucking sense.
That was the ECW credo.
And I didn't invent this shit. The first time when I learned from Bill Dundee how to fix a board, and they've never failed me. I've done dozens of them. Have never failed, and it gets a huge pop. But first time I saw it, I'm like, what the fuck? It was in Chattanooga. Actually, it wasn't the first time I saw it. It was the first time I was involved in it. First time I saw it, I said, oh, shit, they broke that board over that fucking guy's head. But the first time I was involved in it was in Chattanooga when the Fantastics, Bobby Fulton and Terry Taylor, jumped the Angel and the Bounty Hunter and came in the front door and attacked them to get even and broke boards over their head. But the problem was Bobby Fulton knew what to do. Because even if the board has been modified, you have to hit your victim straight over the head in the right place, not as hard as you can attempting to cause brain trauma, but literally hard. And it'll work and nobody will get hurt. Bobby Fulton did that. Terry Taylor had Frank Morrell, and he was trying not to hurt Frank, so he was hitting him with working shots. The board wasn't breaking, but Frank's head was knotting up. And finally, he snatched Terry by the throat. He said, God damn it, if you don't hit me hard, I'm going to rip your fucking nuts off. Bam! So anyway, and then we did the same thing the next year in Houston. My God, you should have seen the people. We had Magnum TA in Wrestling 2 for the Mid-South Tag Team title, and they'd gotten juice on Magnum. He's bleeding, and he's been dumped to the floor. And now the Midnight Express is double teaming Mr. Wrestling 2, and the people in Houston would riot at at a fucking late garbage truck. It didn't matter what the fuck. They just wanted to riot, so they're already getting up. And goddamn Magnum TA gets up and sees his partner getting double teamed and turns around and walks down the aisle and leaves. Does the old cowboy Bob Ellis bloody dead man walk through the people. He's leaving. What the fuck? And now the people are bullshit. It's 2-on-1, 3-on-1 with the managers keeping the referee at bay. And all of a sudden, here comes Magnum back down the aisleway with a goddamn board. And he gets in the ring, and Bobby Eaton turns around, and he hit Bobby Eaton over the top of the head with that board, and it broke in half, and splinters and pieces flew up in the air. And I've never heard 11,000 people come all at the same time before. Wah! And then the day was saved, and holy shit, and then we ran, and they chased us, and my God, it was hot. One shot. Nobody got hurt. Made the fucking point of the whole deal. Or we could have gone out there and drug everything out from under the ring they've got in Home Depot and hit everybody 1,000,000 times with everything and then fallen off a fucking ladder at the end of it. And they'd have been sitting there going, I wonder what time the fucking bus leaves for home. But anyway,